happens in young women, especially after childbirth, but it commonly happens in postmenopausal women. It can happen in men as well, and we'll discuss that further later. And what that slide said is of how significant the problem can be. I hear women tell me all the time that they've canceled their tennis matches, they don't golf anymore, they don't go shopping with their friends, they can't play cards with their friends anymore, they don't plan vacations, they're not spending as much time with their husband. I mean, it's a really significant problem. Again, some statistics which we will review. 80% of the women, or 80% of Americans who have incontinence are women, so that still leaves 15% of men that have incontinence. And men get incontinence for different reasons than women do. They are usually people, the men usually have problems with their prostate glands that cause the obstruction of flow. And as the bladder, through years and years of being unable to empty itself completely, the bladder can become very thickened, very overactive, and they can have leakage for totally different reasons than women. So that's an entirely different thing that we'll touch on. $26 billion per person living independently in the United States is the cost, and the average cost per incontinent person living in the community is assessed to be about $3,500 a year. That sounds like a lot of money, but when you think about the cost of Depends pads, a small package of Depends, I see, are about $15 a pack. If you're using several of those per month, plus you're taking medicines, plus you're going to your physicians for some office visits, it rapidly adds up to a fair amount of money. And it's definitely something that the government is looking into and paying more attention to in the last 10, 20 years because it has become such an issue and it's such a burden on society. So as a result, there's much more research being done on this problem, and over the next 10 to 15 years, I'm sure there'll be many more medicines and things that are available that aren't now. Incontinence, whether it be urinary incontinence or the other type of incontinence, which is fecal incontinence or loss of stool, is one of the major causes of people being admitted to nursing homes. And that might sound like it's surprising, but when you think about it, when a person gets to the point where they're having so many problems in their daily lives and they're having incontinence of urine or stool, it becomes a tremendous burden on the family. It makes it very difficult. So this, I've seen a few patients in my practice already, and I've only been here for about 6 months, that they come to me as a last resort, thank you, before they go to a nursing home. And there are definitely ways that can be averted if that's the main issue that they're having to go. And I don't know if I really believe this or not, but they say that only 5% of incontinent people in the community receive appropriate medical evaluation. Perhaps the number is so low because there are so many degrees of incontinence. Some people can have a little leakage when they swing a golf club really hard, or they play tennis, and then some people can have linkage that occurs just pretty much continuously. So of all the people, they say only 5% will receive appropriate attention. Again, the two types of the two types of incontinence that most of the women that I see in my office have are one of these two, and most of the time it's mixed, a combination of the two. There's stress incontinence, which again is coughing, laughing, sneezing, anything that will increase the amount of pressure in your belly and cause the urethra to lose urine, or urge incontinence, which is more just an overactive bladder, and then it's because there is some different reasons for that as well. A typical example of this would be like, it's called the key in the door syndrome. You come home from the grocery store, you're trying to get your keys into the door, all of a sudden you get a sudden urge to go and there's nothing that you can do to make it to the restroom in time. Or some people say, they're fine until they think about going to the bathroom, they have to run to get there and they can barely get their pants down in time. That's urge incontinence. And this is more of what men usually get. Men usually have urge incontinence. Men do not usually have stress incontinence unless they've had some type of surgery on their prostate gland, like a transurethral resection of the prostate or the rotor of the prostate, or even sometimes in men who have had radical prostatectomies for prostate cancer. That's another type of man who will have stress incontinence. But again, unless a man's had a surgery, They usually don't have stress incontinence. Men have different treatments available for stress incontinence than do women. Things like artificial urinary sphincters, which are little plastic rings that go around the urethra.